Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another video. I just wanted to hot mic my impressions from last night's PlayStation 5 reveal, and in particular Square Enix's fair. Square Enix had one game to show off, and we know it's actually a game now, not a tech demo, for what's called Project Athia, or Athia, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I'll probably butcher it either way. But essentially, I mean, I guess it's not going to keep that name. It might not for the future. Project usually infers that they haven't come up with a final name, and it looked interesting. It's Square Enix's on-site Luminous Productions team, and with a very familiar engine from what I can tell, making a game that looks actually quite interesting. Obviously, we don't get much in this. There's just a few clips of this female character, a protagonist presumably, walking through this sort of landscape. There's words and text that don't really mean anything to me personally on screen, sort of alluding to a storyline, but at the same time there's not really any context for that. Basically there is a little section where you're jumping around as well, and there is like this weird monsters and things. It looks very, very interesting. That's my first impressions of it. Second of all, I was quite interested to learn, obviously, that this has been something in development for quite some time. I hung around on social media. I can't find them right now, but as this was happening, a lot of the Square Enix employees were retweeting one of the lead developers, unveiling that he's been working on this for quite some time. So, yeah. Interestingly enough, though, people have been suspecting that Yoshi P might be involved with a new project, be that Final Fantasy 16 or something else. Recently, he had to make a public declaration during one of the live letter reruns. He pretty much mentioned that he wasn't taking part as at least producer-director sort of approach to a new Final Fantasy game, and he was actually getting quite annoyed with people suggesting that he might be and spreading false rumors. That it is what it is. Speculation's going to run rampant because we all love you, dude. We expect you to be working on lots of other stuff because he's always wanted to do his own single-player game. That's something he has mentioned before during interviews. So for us to see a new project every time Square Enix shows something new off, we're instantly going to jump down the throat of, is it Final Fantasy 16, 17, 18? Or is this an untitled project that Yoshi P's working on? Now, whilst that's very likely not the case, although we can't back that up with any credence either way, there is actually a clip at the end during the unveiling of PlayStation 5 where they showed developers working on PlayStation 5. And in the middle of this, you'll notice that Yoshi P is indeed standing there saying, "Welcome to PlayStation 5. So, I mean, as a result, he could be there representing Final Fantasy 14 being given, obviously, a version on PlayStation 5. It's no lie that we're going to be getting a version of Final Fantasy 14 on PlayStation 5. Along with the rumored backwards compatibility with the console, I would imagine they would probably just make a brand new client for that. And eventually, maybe in the future, retire the PS4 version, just maybe so they can increase the graphical performance. But again, there's no actual evidence towards that. It's all hearsay at the moment. The only thing we do know is that we will very likely have a PS5 version of the game, which is good for a lot of people because, maybe they can add some new features to the PS5 version that the PS4 version doesn't have. That would be quite nice, especially in terms of loading times with that new fancy SSD that they're talking about with a PS5. That should be comparable to a PC, much closer than the actual PS4 Pro or PS4 original version, which is all good news. But more people can get into the content faster, the less likelihood there is that you're waiting around for that one guy who has the PS4. Obviously, it's not a big deal regardless. There's only slight animosity in the community between PlayStation and PC users, and I think it's a great example of how crossplay can work quite effectively between platforms. There's still no news of an Xbox version of Final Fantasy 14. That's still up in the air. A lot of people are hoping for that. Me personally, I just hope that we have more people to play with, but not at the limitations of a console. I've been criticized for this in the past, but personally, it looks to me like the development of these new consoles is going to be pretty intense, and they have the opportunity to actually knock both consoles out of the park with the technology that they have, the SSD technology as well for the loading times, and the way that culling works. Yeah, the presentation of both of these consoles looks exceptional, I'm not going to lie, but the PlayStation is definitely seemingly being more open with a few details, although we didn't get a price of the unit last night as well. That's quite annoying. So in general, I think that Square Enix as a whole are going in a really interesting direction. It's unfortunate we didn't see any other projects that they might be working on. I very much doubt that they're only working on one project, but it does look exciting, and it reminds me very heavily of Final Fantasy XV with the way that the movement works on this particular character, especially when they're jumping between those rocks there. It reminds me heavily of Noctis. Some of the early CG scenes we saw of Noctis, actually, I think it was the Omen trailer where there was all those monsters and it was in his mind sort of thing, and they started attacking. It kind of reminds me of that, so you can tell it's kind of basically maybe the same engine, but you can see where it's coming from. Whether Yoshi P is involved or not is a big question, but I mean, the likelihood is that he was only featured on that last scene before the PlayStation reveal because of his closeness with Sony, and Final Fantasy XIV being a massive commercial success for the console and indeed Square Enix themselves. So it makes sense that Square Enix would send their head man, their head honcho, over to represent them. So yeah, I'm quite excited. Final thoughts though with the console, a lot of people have been ridiculing it for looking like a Wi-Fi router. Whilst I see that, I personally don't see the appeal on crapping on consoles like that. I think personally it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing consoles I've ever seen. And if you were to compare them in terms of design between the Xbox and this, then this is definitely more stylized. The Xbox is literally an Xbox. It is just a big box. So if you were talking aesthetics, which means nothing anyway, I think the PlayStation 5 is certainly the one I would lean towards. In terms of power, I'm not sure. In terms of the games currently, there doesn't seem to be that many exclusives on the PlayStation, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Although I am hyped for a lot of the titles they did show, which I'll likely play on PlayStation anyway. I definitely like the controller that they show. I love the DualShocks. I've always been a proponent of using a DualShock for, you know, like a PS3 controller or a PS4 controller for my PC gaming as well for some of the games, especially the car racing ones and stuff where mouse and keyboard doesn't work as well, in my opinion, like Forza and things like that. But as a whole, I'm very excited for the future. I'm very excited to see where Square Enix go with this project. We don't have any news regarding to Yoshi P, so anything you see online, you know, take it with a pinch of salt. Everything is rumors at this point, but it's very, very interesting to see another Luminous Productions project being worked on at Square Enix, and I wish them all the best, and I really, really, really want to see more progress on this, maybe a few more trailers within the next couple of years. That would be nice. Whether or not this is going to be just fleshed out over those years, or if it's going to be something they can turn around quickly, is anyone's guess. But after Hajime Tabata and Final Fantasy XV, I would imagine that they're not going to be stretching out the development time too much, considering Final Fantasy XIV is pretty much carrying Square Enix at the moment, that and their publishing deals. Anyway, thank you kindly for watching this video. Let me know what you think about the PS5 event. If you want to watch my live reactions, we did a full, like, 2 hour nearly, or is it an hour and a half? Live reactions. That's actually on channel 2, which is called Meoni Games. You can find that in my sidebar on my channel. I'll link it in the description. And of course, yeah, go check that out. I'm putting more effort into the second channel. Every weekend we're doing random videos based on random video games I play, but we're also going to have stuff like reactions to events and things like that there. Anyway, thank you kindly for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you all next time.